Hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing.
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I have all new spring Dollar Tree DIYs for you. We're going to continue on the blue theme for spring this year, and I have some really beautiful pieces today. So let's get started with our first one. I'm going to use 2 of the little wood crate boxes from the Dollar Tree, and I thought we could make a garden trellis planter. So I want to put 2 of them together end to end like this and make a longer little planter box here for the base. This is also going to act as the stand for the trellis. I attached them together with some hot glue. I did make sure that I got 2 that were exactly the same size because I have noticed that they do vary slightly. I do want the outside of it to look like it's boarded in instead of having the gap there in the front. So I'm going to do that with some of the wooden rulers from the Dollar Tree. I love crafting with these. They work really well for projects like this. All you have to do is remove the stickers on these. They do have a little bump on them. I usually kind of use that on the bottom like that. And it's the perfect length to cover the entire box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my saw and just cut off the little circle cutouts here at the end. And it should be just about the perfect length for the front. And it's just going to make everything look a little bit more cohesive. I add some hot glue onto that bump and line that up with the very bottom so it will sit flat when we make this into the planter box. And I have a really fun idea of making a garden trellis for the back of this using one of those little easel kits that you see there. I love crafting with those from the Dollar Tree. Now for the sides, I'm going to kind of do the same thing. It's much shorter here. I'm just going to cut that out. I'm going to need 2 for each side. So you know what? I'm going to need that 4th ruler for this. So I went ahead and I cut down 4 side pieces, all the same width. Then I'm just going to attach those. I'm not going to do the boards on the back. I don't think it's necessary. You're not going to be able to see it back there. And so same thing, I just add hot glue to the bump here, line this up. Now, I didn't do any fancy cutting or anything like that. That's going to cause like miter corners. I'll try to clean that up a little bit with some spackle before we start painting this. But I'm glad that I added the wood details. You could also do this with like paint stir sticks, any kind of thin wood that you have. And it's just going to make it look like it's one piece because they don't have any like long boxes like this from the Dollar Tree. Now that I have it all constructed, I'm just going to go in with some spackle here at the corners. I don't expect it to look perfect, but if I can fill in, some of the gaps there, it's going to make it like kind of disappear when I paint this piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct this entire piece with just raw wood like this. And then I'm going to go in and paint everything at the end. That way I can make sure that my hot glue sticks. I notice a lot of times when I hot glue onto paint, it doesn't work so well. Now, this is the little easel kit I was talking about. Great source of wood. I like the fact that they come disassembled now because it makes it even easier to craft with. You can't save this hardware. They have some good hardware in there. What I want from this is the 2 longest pieces here, the ones that look a little bit like stakes, right? I think those are going to be the perfect sides for my little trellis. Nice and thin, but still strong. At first, I thought about cutting off the little beveled tip at the end, but then I decided, you know what, I can kind of hide that down in the planter, and that'll make it even taller. So I just attached some hot glue here to the base, and I glued that on where it would have like the most contact with like the flatter side there on the back. And I'm just going to go all the way to the corner of the back of my planter box. And they should be exactly the same height because they are cut out to be the easel. Now I'm going to use this like flatter piece here to fill in. It is a little bit too long, and I thought I would make it even wider by adding the second piece too. So I'm just going to cut it down a tiny bit to see if I can get it to fit in there to be square, and I think that will work. I also want to add like a little detail piece, but I think I'll do that with the other piece we have from the easel kit. I only needed one of the easel kits for this project. It worked out really well. I'm going to hot glue this in to both of the sides, making sure the hole goes up so you won't be able to see that. And then I'm going to do the same thing here with the second piece. I just wanted it to be a little bit wider so that I could add that wood detail, and maybe we could add some decor to the top of the trellis as well. So this is the last piece of the easel kit, and I'm going to cut that down all the way from side to side, including the side pieces. So that's going to be a great finishing piece. This one doesn't have any holes in it, and so that's going to be a really good decorative piece. So I just hot glue that one on as well. Now for the trellis part, I'm going to use these bamboo sticks. I get these in bulk on Amazon. I will post a link to them. You get a ton of them. They last forever and they are so great for crafting. As you can see, they're flat and skinny, so they're perfect for the trellis. And I'm going to glue one on corner to corner. The next one, I'm just going to kind of estimate. I'm not going to measure. And I'm going to cut this one right about here. The great thing about having some of these miter scissors is that you can do a 45-degree angle cut like this really easily. So that is what I'm going to use for the side pieces. And then I'm just going to glue that on to both the frame sides. We're going to do all of them kind of going this direction first, and then we'll go back and do the trellis going the other direction to fill it out. And I will link the miter scissors that I use in the description of today's video too, if you would like to grab a pair. They're not very expensive, and I use them for crafting all of the time. A lot of times they won't cut really flat items, but this has enough depth to it that I'm able to pinch it and cut it all in one little piece, just like scissors, right? And I love the miter corners. I was able to get that angle, so you're not going to be able to see it at the end. Now I'm going to space these out all the way to the end, just gluing everything down. And then I kind of need to go the other direction. For this one though, I'm going to do a little different. I'm going to hot glue on this corner and then on the other side here at the bottom. And I'm actually going to go inside the planter box instead of having it go on the outside. That way it will lay a little bit flatter, I think. I'm going to continue that down, trying to see kind of what fits here and spacing. I do have to miter the corners on that one to get that to fit really well. That way I have the most contact area to glue. Here I was able to fit this one inside that box. This one I'm going to have to go inside the next box. So I cut that one a little bit shorter to make sure that that fits. And then I can use some of scrap pieces here at the bottom to fill it out this direction, just hot gluing everything on. So we have half of the trellis done, really cute. Now we're gonna do the second layer. Again, corner to corner, these bamboo sticks fit perfect for the scale. Thank goodness, I didn't have to cut that piece at all. And then I did add a little hot glue to the center just to make sure they don't bow and everything lays flat in our lattice. I'm really glad I decided to make this little trellis. It turned out so cute. Again, I had to miter that corner, hot glue that one inside the box, and then hot glue one in the middle. I found that you only had to hot glue really one of those down. You'll kind of be able to see if you have any bowing and where you'll need to hot glue that down. And I'm going to keep moving down. I'm kind of keeping track here of these pieces by doing a little X here on the side here. And that also helped with my spacing, because if there's an X over on the side where I'm hot gluing that one on, then I should be able to have these spaced out properly. And again, just kind of working around the limitations of the boxes there at the bottom, but I'm really glad I decided to glue it on the inside of the box. It hides it, the end of it, and it also makes everything just so much more flat. Now I'm going to get here where I'm going to, again, go the other direction. Again, I do the corners here for the other side and glue everything to the top. Here, since I am like a second layer on top, I'm actually gluing it to the bamboo that's already glued to the wood there at the top, because it's not going to lay flat like the other ones did at the top. But that seemed to work out really well, and we can finish off this little trellis back here. So cute. I think I need one more piece for the corner. And I think I did pretty good with this spacing. Now you're going to want to clean up if you have any hot glue stringing or anything like that, because when you do go to paint it, you're definitely going to be able to see that. Painting this was probably the most challenging part, but I am glad that I went ahead and glued everything together. It just made it so much sturdier before I painted it. The tricky part is kind of getting around all of the little spaces here on the trellis. I just went in with a little foam paint dauber and some antique parchment is the color of ivory that I'm using for this. And I decided to kind of just do like the outer pieces going in one direction and then go in trying to fill in the other pieces in between. Now you will notice that you'll have to use like a smaller brush to kind of get in any of the corners on the sides of the pieces or anything like that to make sure none of the wood shows through. So if you wanted to use like an ivory spray paint, I think that would be faster for sure. I just wanted to use some acrylic paint so I would have a quick dry time on this and we could continue to DIY this. And I also want to add some vinyl to the front of the little garden trellis. And I'm not sure if I've ever added vinyl to spray paint. I'm sure it would work, but I just kind of took my time and painted this really well. Now I'm going to go in and do the side pieces here of the trellis, the trim pieces, the top of it. And I want everything to be that ivory color. I think that looks so pretty for like a spring cottage feel. And we're also going to be painting like the little flower box at the bottom, that little antique parchment color too. This is an apple barrel color. It's just a very light ivory, very neutral, also kind of a farmhouse vibe as well. And then I'm going to go in and flip it around and try to make sure that I got everything. I don't want any of the wood showing through on the lattice, and again, filling in any of the cracks or details with a smaller brush. But I think that looks good. So now it's time to paint the flower box. That's going to be a lot easier. I'm just going to paint these little wood rulers that we have on here. And I think it's really coming together. My vision of like the little garden trellis is definitely coming together. I think it works perfectly too. I was trying to decide if I wanted this to be like a flower market or like a flower garden. I kind of did both, I think. So I pretty much have everything painted. I thought maybe I could go around the top rim of the flower box. As you can see, the rulers come up a little bit higher on the side. It kind of blocks everything, the construction inside of the little bins. And we're going to have this completely filled with Dollar Tree florals, so you won't be able to see inside. Now for the garden tools, I wanted the smallest garden tools I could find from the Dollar Tree. I think these are kind of kid ones, but they're like real metal. The only problem is they're these bright colors, like the yellow and the green. It's kind of got like a little bit of a silicone handle on the garden tools. And so I want them to be two different colors. So what I did was I just taped off the handles first with a little bit of painter's tape. That way I don't get like the spray paint on the handle. And I'm thinking I'm going to use acrylic paint for that part. My vision with the garden tools is that I could stand these up against the trellis on the back for another fun detail to this project. Now, I was a little hesitant about these bright yellow and green garden tools, but I was able to transform them into something beautiful. So I'm going to start with spray paint. I had some like silver metallic spray paint. It's not exactly the look I'm going for, but it's a great base coat. And you know what? These were really easy to spray paint. I just made sure that I got all of the edges so I don't have any bright yellow coming through. And one coat was really all it took. I'm just going to stand that up in a little flower pot so that that spray paint can start to dry. We're definitely going to have to paint these in steps because there's so many different things that need to be done to them. But I went ahead and spray painted the little rake exactly the same way, just making sure I didn't have any yellow showing through, and we will set these aside and let those dry. Now, back to the garden trellis. I told you I wanted to add words to the front, so I cut down some vinyl. And if you would like the SVG file for this to recreate, I'll have it linked down in the description of today's video. I cut mine out on this blue vinyl. I think this is going to be really cute for my blue theme. And we're going to have this say fresh cut flowers. So I did flowers in just a capital letter, a little fancy. And then I did fresh cut in a cursive font. So I'm just going to go ahead and weed those all out. And I sized these to fit the rulers perfectly. I'm going to use my paper transfer paper to attach these. I love this paper transfer paper in the 6-inch size like this. I have this linked in my Amazon shop. I love it because you can work on a freshly painted surface like this and you won't damage the paint at all. I'm going to peel off my vinyl. And this blue vinyl I got was like a variety pack on Amazon where it came with lots of different colors of the smart vinyl, which I use for my Cricut Joy Extra. And so it makes it really easy. Now for the vinyl, I'm going to go ahead and line these up. Let's go ahead and do fresh cut here on that top piece of wood, just trying to center that. As you can see with the paper transfer paper, you can see through it enough to be able to center it. And I'm going to do the same thing here with flowers. Really cute. I'm glad that we added a word. If you don't have a Cricut, you could always use a paint pen and just kind of do a handwritten one, or you could use some stencils. I'm going to seal it with a little bit of Mod Podge and then give it a very light distress with that antique parchment color here to kind of give it that hand painted sign. I went over that with paint and then a dry paper towel so I don't take too much of the paint off, but I just wanted to distress all of the letters a little bit to make them not so perfect. Now for the garden tools. I have this silver paint dried, so I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the painter's tape on here, and we can start working on the handles of this one. They're already looking a little bit better. They did have different garden tools at the Dollar Tree, but they, again, were larger. They were kind of black and dark green, so again, not really the colors I was looking for. Now for the handle, I want them to look like wood. To get that look, I'm going to go in with that ivory coat first, sponging that on, trying to cover up all of that bright green. I was a little worried about painting like the silicone, but it is a hard enough material that I was able to paint it pretty well. I'm just trying to sponge that on to get the best coverage that I can get. And then I also use like a little tiny brush to go in the little hanger hole on these, so you won't be able to see that bright green and yellow color shine through. Then I'm going to flip it over, do the same thing here on the back. I figured if I could get a good coat of ivory paint on here, then I should be able to distress that with a little bit of Antique Wax by Waverly to give me almost like a wood grain, even though they're definitely not wood. The size on these are perfect though for the scale of this garden trellis. It worked out really well. I'm going to set that aside and let that dry, and we can start working on the little flower box. I'm going to fill it up with some Dollar Tree foam. I'm using these smaller pieces, but they're still not small enough, so I'm just going to trim these down and just fill up both boxes with floral foam, so it'll be really easy to add the little florals. And the theme I'm going for spring this year is like a blue and white hydrangea, and I think we can get that look with some flowers I found from the Dollar Tree. Not necessarily all hydrangeas, but some of them are. And then I went in with some reindeer moss on top of the foam to give me a good filler there so you won't be able to see the foam and it'll look nice and spring-like. I'm going to kind of go around all the edges, not necessarily the center, because I plan to have this really filled with flowers. Now, I don't really like the color of my reindeer moss that I've been getting it lately, so I took a little bit of leaf green color and distressed it just to give a little bit more of a springy vibe to the moss, but that part's totally optional. That's just me being extra. Now, these are some of the blue hydrangeas from the Dollar Tree. They're a little bit bigger, but you know what? I think we can make this work. I want to alternate blue and white, and I'm trying to do different flowers, as you can see. So I tried to find different ones. Some of these are hydrangeas, like these white ones. Some of them are different versions of the hydrangeas. I really went to a couple of Dollar Trees and tried to see as many flowers as I could get that would work. And I think we'll add some of these. I did make sure that I kind of replaced any flowers that may have fell off these little Dollar Tree florals. You know, I have not been buying these very often since they raised the price to $1.75. I really tried to reuse them as much as possible because they definitely add up now. And so I'm going to keep going across here. This time I started with white, then blue. Basically, I'm doing 6 in each box, just alternating the colors and alternating which flowers they are for variety and to make this really fun. So we're going to fill that all in. I do want to add like a little bit of more details with maybe some thinner flowers, some baby's breath and stuff like that. But I think this looks really cute. And this is the baby's breath that I'm talking about. I'm going to cut them down into little individual bundles that I can add and kind of like work into the flowers. I just want little touches of this here and there. I'm just cutting off like any empty stems or anything on these and working these in. And the little tiny flower aspect of these works really well as a fun trim. And it goes with the blue and white color scheme for sure. So I just want about 3 bundles of them. And then I am going to add some of these gypsos flowers. They're kind of between a blue and a purple, but they're really tiny and I love the greenery on them. So I'm just going to cut those into individual pieces and add these as well. If you haven't seen my first spring video this year, I have the same color scheme, the blue and the white, and I really love this for spring. It's a different direction than I've went before, and I'm really glad I chose blue. Now, these are some of the little baby's breath flowers. They're the smallest flowers I could find from the Dollar Tree. I want some blue ones and some white ones, and I'm going to use those to decorate the trellis, not necessarily the little flower box. So again, we're still working on these garden tools. Now that we have the tool part painted silver, I do want to distress that and make it look like galvanized metal a little bit. So I mix some black and white together to make it gray, and I am just kind of sponging on a distress here and there that I'm going to blot with a paper towel. That way it won't take all of the paint off and it's going to give it that great texture. You don't want too much, just kind of here and there. And I am going to go ahead and do both sides of the tool. I think that looks good. That was really easy to get that finish. And you can always add more if you don't distress enough. Or if you want to start over, you can use like a baby wipe. And it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. It's supposed to look kind of random, make them look a little bit older. And my son was really impressed with how I transformed these tools because I was trying to explain to him what they looked like before. They definitely look different at the end. And so, again, this is the little shovel. I did the same thing, just sponging that on. The paper towel seemed to be the trick to really get the finish that I was looking for on that. And then I'm going to also work on the handle. I told you I wanted to make these look like wood. And so I'm going to take some antique wax and a little chunky brush, and I'm going to kind of drag that over the handle. Now, some of the handles had writing on them etched in. I'm just going to kind of ignore that and work over it. And then if I get too much on there, I'm just kind of wiping that off with a dry paper towel as well. And we're going to do that on both sides, just making sure that I work in one direction so I do get a slight wood grain on these, and then wiping off any excess with a paper towel. And I think they do kind of have that wood vibe. We're going to be standing these up against the trellis, and so you're not going to be able to see the whole thing, but you're probably going to be able to see at least the top half of the handle behind the flowers. So I just distress these until I'm happy with them. I think those look pretty good. Now, this is what I'm talking about. We're going to stand them up like this. I thought the rake would look good like that and the shovel like this. I'm standing those on the foam like that. And so I don't want them to fall over, and I don't necessarily want to glue them on. So I decided to tie them on with some twine. So I went around the handle with some twine, and I went through the lattice there of the trellis and simply tied that off one time at least, and so that they don't go anywhere. Then I'm going to turn this around, tie them again to knot that off, and then just remove the excess twine here. And that worked pretty well to keep them in place and kind of push those down into the foam. I'm really glad I added that detail to this project. I think it made it really special. Then I wanted a little bit of ivy, but Dollar Tree doesn't have like a smaller ivy. And then I remembered that I had some of this ivy from Temu. I think I have the link to this. I'll try to post this in the description as well if you'd like to order some of this small ivy. I thought this worked really well. I started in the corner of the top of the trellis. I hot glued that on, and then I kind of wound it through the trellis like you would see vines growing up or across something. I'm going to like skip some. I don't want too much of it, and kind of go across the very top detail. That way we can add some flowers up here easily by adding some flowers to the vines. And then I decided to take that piece all the way down too. So I decided to go through the trellis the same way, have that like kind of winding down the sides. Originally, I wasn't going to do the sides, but I'm glad I added that touch. It just made it so spring and fun with all of the greenery. I attached it with a little hot glue in the corner to make sure that stays in place. And then since I went down that side, I think I'm going to go down the other side as well. So I started here by hot gluing a piece on, and then I'm going to wind this through on this side as well, very similar to what I did on the other side. Very cute. I can go ahead and take that same piece and wind it up again. This time we're going through the little trellis and have it kind of stop here at the top. I liked the look of that greenery, and so I'm going to do that same thing here on the other side where I have like 2 rows of the ivy working the way up. And again, they do have like leaf garland like this from the Dollar Tree, but definitely not this scale. It's really big. And I just start here at the base for my second layer on this side. And again, just kind of weaving it through. The more random, the better, like an ivy would grow up something. And then I had this like extra piece, so I decided to keep it, have it kind of coming down to the side. And then I liked that, so I added another piece to the other side coming down that side as well to kind of balance everything out. I'm really glad I decided to add the ivy. I was going to do just flowers at the top, but the ivy really added something special to this project. Now for the flowers for the top, I'm going to use those little baby's breath in the blue and the white. And I'm going to glue them on kind of in a random pattern here at the top, covering each one of them at least on the very top with a flower. I have that little bit of a ledge there, so I definitely wanted to decorate that. And the thing about this piece that's so great is that you can use it sitting as a shelf sitter, which I'm going to use it for, but you could also hang it on the wall because it's not that deep. I think it would definitely work as a wall hanging as well. But look at all the fun features. We DIY the little lattice there on the back for the trellis. We added the garden tools, beautiful flower box down here that says fresh cut flowers. And as you can see, it's pretty large, but I really love how it turned out. I hope you're enjoying today's video. If you are, be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you would hype today's video. This spring DIY is going to be very easy. I picked up a glass candle holder from the Dollar Tree and one of their spring glasses. The glass has blue hydrangeas on it, so it's perfect for my theme. And I love the fact that I found a clear glass candle holder. I think that's going to elevate this and make this into a beautiful spring vase. So the first thing I do is just remove all the tags here from the bottom of each piece. And then make sure I get all the sticky residue off of there as well. And we're going to glue this on. I'm going to use the Gorilla Glue Clear Grip. It's kind of like E6000, very strong, and it's going to help with the glass to glass. It's going to work way better than hot glue. So I add that to the top of the candle holder, flip that over, and lay that on top of the glass that's upside down. Just making sure that I get that centered. It doesn't take too long to dry, but I'm definitely not going to mess with it for a while. Then I decided to try resin. This is some of the Dollar Tree resin, and I'm going to try to make some faux water with this. I have used like the clear glue in the past, and I don't know if it's the humidity in Florida or whatever, but I always end up with like a hole in it on the top. So I thought we could do some fake water for our flowers with the resin. But resin can be dangerous, so you're definitely going to have some protection. I have a mask that I got on Amazon to work with resin. I have eye protection, and I'm also going to wear my gloves. I'm also in the garage, so I'm in a well-ventilated area. It's a 2-part resin. I always pour part B in first because it is thicker and it's harder to get out of the bottle. And I'm just going to put that into like a little bathroom cup here, a plastic cup I had. And then I'm going to add part A. You're going to want to mix your resin as much as you can. Each one of these Dollar Tree bottles is 1 ounce. And so I think 2 ounces will be enough for the water effect. I can't really do more than that with one single pour. But the Dollar Tree resin is great for this because the bottles are so small, so you can make a good project like this. I am going to stir that thoroughly, and then we are going to pour this into the vase. I try to make sure I don't get any on the sides. I pour it straight in the center. And this is going to harden. It's going to be clear like water, and it's going to hold the flowers in place. And so I just kind of try to pop any bubbles I had in there with a skewer, but a heat gun or a blow dryer works well for that too. If you heat it up a little bit, you can get rid of any bubbles. For the flowers, we're going to use the blue and white hydrangeas from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut them into individual pieces so they will look like fresh flowers in our little vase, and put that right down inside the resin. It's going to look kind of like real stems down there at the bottom. And since it's going to be transparent, you'll definitely be able to see that. I'm trying to cut like maybe different lengths. And I had a couple different colors of hydrangeas that I found at the Dollar Tree too. I'm just trying to mix them all in, kind of alternating the blue and the white and arranging it. I don't want it to be too full because this vase is not that big using that glass, but I was able to add a good deal of flowers to it. Now you're going to have to let this sit and cure. Within a day, you will have hard resin, and I absolutely love how this turned out. It's the first time I've tried to use resin for faux water, and it's definitely the best way that I've ever done it. Let me show you how it turned out. Here's our beautiful flowers in our glass vase. And down here at the bottom, we have our faux water. Now, if you wanted more water, you could do a second pour of resin once that one started to set up after about 6 hours. But isn't that so cute? It was really easy, and I was glad to kind of do a resin project. I haven't done one in a while. The next project is going to be a thrift flip. I found this great frame at the Salvation Army the other day. They had a President's Day sale, so everything was half price. So it only cost $1. I loved the shape and structure of this, and I thought I could make this into something really special. So my plan is to make it into a window. So I want to try to put the glass on the top like that, and I want to make it look like a flower shop window. I have the vision of this, and I think we can make this work. So I went ahead and removed the glass. I do want a little bit of a shelf here that I can decorate on like a little window ledge. To do that, I'm going to use one of these paint stir sticks that I got on Amazon. I will link these in the description of today's video. They're really great for crafting too because they are just plain wood. I cut mine down to size, and then even though this was a brand new frame that had never been used, it was a little dusty. I'm going to clean that up and then attach the little shelf here at the bottom. I'm going to do that first before I paint everything so my hot glue is sturdy, and I glued that little shelf on right there. You could probably also do that with like a giant popsicle stick as well. It might not be quite as thick though. And then we're going to paint the entire thing with that antique parchment color of acrylic paint. I'm going to start down here at the base. I do have to kind of switch brushes from time to time to get in all of the great details of this frame. But the feet on this and the little structure of the top and the bottom sold me on this piece. And I thought this definitely could be something other than just a photo frame. So I tried to get really creative on this one and make this into something really special. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint the front and the back of everything just to make it look a little bit better. I have lots of different colors that I am covering up, like that like hunter green and stuff at the top. And the front has a little bit of a wood frame that sticks out. I'm going to go ahead and trim this out when I add the glass to the front to make it into a window. So I don't have to worry about that too much. There was definitely a lot of painting on this project to cover up all of these colors. We also have like the little flowers that are painted on there and stuff like that too. If you want to make yours a little bit easier, if you have a frame you're going to do this with, I would recommend using some like ivory spray paint with primer. It's going to be a lot less painting, and I kind of wish that I would have done that. I don't think I realized how much painting and how many little details there were on this frame. And, you know, again, covering those dark colors and stuff like that. But I just used that apple barrel antique parchment. I painted everything, the sides as well, anything that's going to be visible here. And, you know, I wanted the back to be nice as well, too. I'm still going to use like the structure of the frame when I make this into a window so it will stand up on its own and be a really pretty shelf sitter for spring. But I've got some really creative ideas for this to make it look like a window. But first, I had to get everything just that perfect shade of ivory. And now we can start worrying about the trim pieces. I'm going to use the little bamboo sticks from Amazon. Again, I will link these in the description of today's video. They are perfect for crafting. I think I paid like $20 for them and I got a ton of them. They last forever and they're so versatile. I really only have to paint one side of those. Those are going to be trim pieces for our window. And I do want a little bit of a farmhouse distressed vibe, like maybe like a little bit coastal cottage feel. So I went in with some antique wax and I just dragged that across the ivory paint, distressing it a little bit, and then wiping off any excess with a baby wipe. I definitely don't want it to get too dark, but I do want it to have a little bit of character. So I did that all over the frame, the little shelf that we added, even the feet. Now, I won't have to do that to the back or anything like that. Basically, just the front or anywhere that you're going to be able to see that. And then if you find that you get it a little too dark, just go back in with your original color. I'm going to go back in with that ivory color and brighten things back up, but still keep the distressed look. Now, I made the little bamboo sticks because I want there to be sections of a window there on the front. And so I went ahead and painted those because once I add these to the glass, it's going to be really hard to paint them. But I decided to distress them slightly as well with that dry brush. But then I realized I don't think I did enough bamboo sticks because I'm not just doing the window pane. I'm also going to have to frame it out a little bit to make it look better. So I decided to use a total of 6. So I painted 6 of these and that was plenty of the bamboo sticks. And it's better just to paint everything at once. I distressed those slightly too. And we can now move on to the construction phase of this. I'm going to go ahead and clean that glass really well for the frame. And again, instead of putting it inside the frame like it was, we're actually going to put it on top. There's a really important reason why we're going on top. It's because I want to do curtains for my spring little flower shop window. So I put hot glue here all along the edges here, and I glued the little glass panel right on top. Just like that, that's going to keep it in instead of any kind of staple or anything like that. And then I'm also going to add hot glue around the edges to make sure that stays in place. And again, we are going to trim that part out so you won't be able to see the hot glue in the end. Now I'm going to split this window in half here with a panel using one of those bamboo pieces. And I'm just going to kind of cut that top to bottom. And then I can have 2 pieces, I think, go across the side since it is a taller window. So I cut down 2 pieces a little smaller to go like this. And I'm going to hot glue those on, 1 to each side. And while I'm doing this level, I might as well do the top and the bottom too. So I'm going to cut 2 more pieces down here, 1 for the top and 1 for the bottom of the frame. And I'm going to go ahead and attach those. That way, when I move vertical, everything can sit on top of these and be glued down directly in layers. And so I have that 1 piece that I cut down to go from top to bottom. I glue that to those pieces, top and bottom. And then I need 2 more of those pieces, the side pieces. I'm going to cut those down as well to trim this out. And I'm really glad that I made extra of the bamboo sticks painted because I decided to also do the sides here so you won't be able to see any of the construction. I just take another piece, cut it down to size, hot glue that over the glass, the frame, the little bamboo piece, everything coming together, and it just made it look a little bit better. And now we have this great like 6-panel window here that we can decorate. Now that we have it all constructed, we can start working on the curtains. I found this blue and white striped fabric at the Dollar Tree, and I thought this would be really cute for curtains, and it would go with my blue and white color scheme. It is a striped print, and I thought we could do that like vertical stripes going down and make easy little curtains. Now, just like with regular curtains, you're going to want them to be wider than your window, and I did like 1.5 to 2 times the width. I'm going to go ahead and tentatively cut this down and then kind of measure how long the curtains need to be. I don't want them to be longer than the window. I want them to fit inside. And I just went ahead and cut that down. Now at this point, it does have a little bit of fraying. I just tried to trim off any strings or anything like that. And I have my heat press next to my craft station. I use it all the time to iron fabrics and stuff like this from the Dollar Tree. It works really well. And now that cleaned the fabric up nicely. Now, of course, I want nice no-sew curtains, and so I'm just going to use them as is, and I am going to hot glue them to the top. What I'm doing is just gluing a little part and then folding it and making little creases like there would be at the top of a curtain to make it hang properly. And I'm only attaching it to the very top like this, so the rest of the fabric can hang down. Now, this is why I added the glass to the front. So I would have this little area here where I could fit the curtains down inside and they would not be flattened out. I really like the character of the curtains looking like that because I think it makes them look a little bit more realistic. Now I'm going to pop the back onto our little window frame. And now it's time to decorate this a little bit. I found these little wood stickers from the Dollar Tree. I think these are great for spring crafting. I'm going to use this smaller wood little flower and I'm going to paint that for a little detail for the top of the window. And I first went in with a little bit of cloudless color to try to get that light blue. It wasn't really the shade of blue that I've been using though, so I did go in with some of the lake blue, and that's more of the decor that I've been using, so I think that will look a little bit better. I kind of mixed the two together. Then I wanted to make a little sign for the window to identify what this window is to. I'm going to do that with a wood ruler, just peeling off the stickers here. And I'm going to cut this down and just make a little sign. You could do this with this, any kind of like scrap wood or even a giant popsicle stick. And then I'm going to stain the wood with some antique wax. I don't want it to be very dark though. So once I got that on there, while it was still wet, I went over and wiped off and blended a lot of that with a baby wipe to give me a lighter finish. Then I'm going to paint this on. It took me a couple attempts to get this just right, but I'm going to do flowers with my white paint pen. And this is like one of the finer white paint pens, which allowed me to do a little bit finer letter on these. You could always use Cricut vinyl for this as well, but I thought flowers, the word flowers, would be easy enough to freehand onto the little sign, and it makes it kind of look homemade, which is great. Once I got that painted on there, I'm going to make a simple little hanger with some twine, and I hot glue that on to the back of each side. I want to add these to the little window. We're going to do the little flower here at the top. It had a really sticky sticker on it, so I decided to take advantage of that and just put that on there. I distressed it lightly with some ivory paint just to kind of make it look distressed like everything else. And then I want to hang my little flower sign here kind of at an angle. I decided just to use a nail for that. I put a tiny nail in there like you would hang a sign, and then I'm going to add some hot glue to keep it kind of a little bit at an angle. Then I went in and touched up my paint a little bit because, it kind of blends into the stain a little bit, and I just wanted you to be able to read it a little bit better. Now for our windowsill, I wanted to decorate that with some flower pots and vases. These are some of the little wooden flower pots from the Dollar Tree. Haven't been able to find them there in a while. Those are my last two. I wonder if you can get those on Temu. You probably can. They're very cute. And then I was able to find the little glass bottles at Dollar Tree today, and I thought those would be perfect little tiny vases for the shelf too. I really think I'm only going to need like a total of 4, so I think that will work. For the little wood flower pots, I'm going to paint them with this terracotta color acrylic paint. It really kind of makes them look like real little terracotta planters. Very cute. I really hope Dollar Tree gets these in again because they're one of my favorite things to craft with for spring, but I haven't been able to find them at Dollar Tree in quite a while. But they're super cute. If you can find like a little miniature wood flower pot online, you could definitely use those. And I'm going to fill the little planters in with some hot glue and reindeer moss. For working on a smaller scale, like a miniature, I'm going to use the smallest flowers I could find from the Dollar Tree, which were these little baby's breath, and I found them in blue. I ran out of these because I've been using them so much, and I had to go to 3 Dollar Trees to get more. And I'm just going to cut them into little pieces that could be used for the plant. I don't want them to be too tall. I do want all of the flowers to be doubled up. I think they look a little bit better that way. And I just hot glued those down into the flower pot to make a little blue flower pot here that we can hot glue onto the corner of the little ledge there for the window. I'm going to do the same thing with the little white baby's breath with the smaller little planter, just gluing those in. And then I'm also going to display some of the flowers in those little glass jars that we got from the Dollar Tree that looks like vases. I thought the gypsos would look really good in that, this like light purple flower. very tiny with greenery on it as well. I'm going to attach that. I'm not going to do any faux water or anything on this one. It's such a small scale. You can't really tell that they don't have water in them. And I thought 2 flowers would look really good in this one. And I'm going to hot glue everything into place on the shelf so that they won't fall off. I'm going to use those same flowers in the other vase as well. The tiniest things I could find from the Dollar Tree for sure. I always seem to want the tiny flowers from the Dollar Tree because I'm usually working like in a miniature scale like this. Then to fill in the rest of the little windowsill, I'm going to use some reindeer moss. I'm going to tone down this green color with some leafy green acrylic paint. Don't be afraid to distress or paint your moss. You can actually make it look a lot better. And so I just went over that with that color, made it look a little bit more spring-like, I think, and less like Christmas-like. Now, once I have that painted, we can start decorating this. I'm going to kind of fill in any of the empty spaces on the little window ledge here with the moss, just for a fun spring vibe. Make it look like it is outdoors. And this flower shop is selling flowers. They displayed some outside here so you could see what they have inside. And I even thought about like putting lights inside to make it look like there's lights on inside the flower shop. But I thought that would get in the way of the back of the frame and the stand. And so I went against that idea. Then for some more flowers, I used a little baby's breath, but I just want little tiny pieces. I'm going to hot glue those in just like individual little stems here and there. And I glue those down into the reindeer moss. I just wanted to look really beautiful and have little touches in the moss as well. I'm going to add some more greenery with some of the gypsos and with some of the flowers. These are so tiny. I love them. And I'm just going to glue those all over. And again, I wanted to use the greenery too. There was a couple different kinds of leaves on this gypsos, and it worked really well for this because I was able to use both kinds. These are the ones that are kind of like on the same ones with the flowers. Very tall with lots of pieces, but they also have like these leafy leaves at the bottom. They were just a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do is cut them in half and cut them back into that leaf shape where I can kind of glue those all over. With miniatures, you have to be kind of creative to make things smaller. And I'm going to do that with all of those, just kind of tucking those in, having those stick out from here and there. I really liked the look of those little tiny leaves as well. And so I added some more of those too. Super cute. I do want more greenery. I thought we could make this one a little bit taller by adding the second branch to it. And this is how it turned out. My little flower shop window, using a thrifted frame I got for $1 at the Salvation Army. I think it's so cute with the little curtains in there behind our little faux window. It is definitely spring theme with the flower shop theme, and adding the little shelf on there for all the little miniatures was definitely the right call. What do you guys think about this one? It's a little out of the box, but I really like it. For this DIY, we're going to use one of the new plastic flowers from the Dollar Tree, the wall art. And I just got this brownish color. I thought it would be easier to paint. And then I'm going to use one of the wood squares from the Dollar Tree. These are like 12 inches, I think 12 inches by 12 inches. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the hanger so that we can paint and decorate this. The first thing I did was go over everything with that ivory paint that I love, the Antique Parchment by Apple Barrel. And I just want a white base here for the flower, and then I thought we could paint the flower a really pretty color as well. And I'm going to add a word to this sign too, just to kind of take it up a notch. I've done a lot of spring decor, but I haven't done a lot of wall decor yet, so I definitely needed a larger piece. So I went ahead and just painted the entire thing. Really easy to paint. That raw wood from the Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to distress it lightly too with some antique wax, just by dry brushing in one direction, trying not to have too much paint on my brush, and then using a baby wipe to kind of blend that all together. I do want it to look like a board sign. So once I get it painted, I do want to kind of cut it, but not all the way through, to make it look like a little bit more of a wood panel. So I'm just going to use a yardstick, a metal yardstick I have for reference, and I'm going to use a razor blade, and I'm just going to kind of hand cut this through the wood, but again, not all the way through, but just enough to add a little bit of character to the piece because it's a little plain as is. I'm going to use the holes there for reference where my next board should be cut, and I think only 2 cuts is plenty. I do want them to be deep though, so I did go over them one more time just to make sure they're super deep and you can kind of see like the difference between the different places of wood. Just a fun hack for that part. And the flower is going to fit on here perfectly. And then I also cut out some vinyl in blue that we can add to the bottom. If you would like a copy of this SVG, check the description down below. You should be able to find that. I will link that to my Google Drive. This one says, "Bloom where you're planted." And I just did it in a beautiful cursive font. I thought that would be a really cute saying to go with the flower sign and just add a little bit more character to this piece. I just have to weed out all the little tiny pieces from the cursive words, but then I'm going to attach this with some of the paper, transfer paper. I don't need very much of it. I'm going to kind of line up the bottom of that, smooth that on there, and this works really well with like a freshly painted sign like this. And I am going to kind of tear some of it off. I don't need all of it. You can also reuse this stuff too if you have like a couple different projects going on. And then I'm going to pull apart the backer from my vinyl, turning it upside down like this and pulling it by bending it to very tightly against the surface I'm working with. Seems to work really well for that. But I'm just kind of taking my time, going piece by piece to make sure that I don't mess anything up. Once you get like about this far, sometimes it's better just to cut off the backer so you don't have to hold on to it anymore, and then you can focus on the rest of your words. And if you have a Cricut, be sure to use them. They're very useful for crafting. I'm going to scrape that on and peel off the paper. Bloom where you're planted. Very cute, and it goes with our blue color scheme we've been using for spring. Now for the flower itself. Time to paint this. Now this was definitely trickier than I thought to paint. I'm going to mix some lake blue with some white. I noticed there was a screw on the back to take it apart, so I figured taking it apart and painting it definitely going to be a good idea. So I just took the screw out and we have this back flower panel. I went over and painted the top of it. This part was easy. It's all the sides of it. Since it is like a plastic piece, you have all of these openings inside, and the tan color is fine, but I thought I really wanted mine to be blue. So I tried to go in with my paintbrush and try to get in all the individual cutouts of all these pieces just to try to get a little bit of blue color on them. But at the same time, I don't want like paint to pool in between all the little crevices and stuff like on there. So it definitely took a little bit of time to paint. I think it would probably be better if you spray painted it for your first coat if you have something close to the color you're going with. But I just went ahead and painted all of mine with acrylic paint. Now for this part of the flower, it comes apart into 3 pieces. I do want to paint the backs of them as well because they're going to be sticking out from the flower. You might be able to see them from the side. So I just flipped over all the pieces and painted these. This part was really easy. The fact that that flower came off and it separated into individual pieces made this really easy to paint. It's just that large piece on the back that definitely caused me a little bit of trouble. And so I think the blue color on this looks so pretty though. What do you think? You can see by the paint on my silicone mat how much painting in between the individual pieces you kind of need to do on this one, which is where the spray paint would definitely come in handy. But I just went in with my brush again and I tried to like paint everywhere where I thought you might be able to see some of the tan color showing through. And I do want to distress this and make it look like almost different shades of blue too when it's done. I went over the centerpieces again with another coat of paint just to make sure I had pretty good coverage on these as well. And definitely a lot of painting and a lot of drying on this project. So what I did was I took that lake blue, I mixed together more white this time. So now I have a lighter shade of blue that I can go over for the next coat. That way I will have like different colors. I want it to be kind of almost an ombre look on these. I also went in with my Cricut weeder to make sure that I didn't have any paint pooling in any of the cracked areas. You could kind of see that. And then I'm going to distress this flower with a lighter blue as well. Very cute. And then I added more white to it to get an even lighter color of blue. And then I'm just going to go over and distress here and there all over just to add some more character to this piece and make it look a little bit more interesting since it is made out of plastic. All of the intricate cuts on here, though, definitely make it really cool. I also distressed all of these parts of the flowers with that lighter blue color as well. And I'm not going to go complete white. I just went to that very light blue. Now it's time to put it all back together. You put your 3 little panels on here and line them up. There's like kind of a square base. This has like a little square tab. And then you screw it all together with that screw that came with the piece. And I would definitely recommend taking it apart to paint it. Even if you do end up spray painting it, it's going to make it a lot easier. Now for the sign for the back, I went in and distressed it lightly with some ivory paint just to make the letters not quite so perfect. And I'm going to make a new hanger. I just took some twine, added some hot glue to the ends to make it a little bit easier to feed through this thicker sign. I'm glad that they're making these signs from the Dollar Tree thicker. That way I only had to use 1 and not 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and feed this in from the back. I like to knot mine on the front. I just find that my pieces hang a little bit better that way when using Dollar Tree signs. And then we're going to attach this. Kind of looking the areas that kind of stick to the back that I can add hot glue to that won't be visible. So I just kind of focused on the center section, added hot glue, centered this on here, and glued this to the sign. Now I thought I would finish it off with a quick bow. I thought we would decorate the hanger, something really easy. I found this thin burlap ribbon at the Dollar Tree the other day. I was really excited to find this. I definitely needed some of this. I just tied it on to the twine hanger and tied a simple bow, letting that come down each side. Just something really easy. I'm going to cut the tails so they'll be about the same size. And we have a fun spring sign using one of those new plastic flowers from the Dollar Tree. Now you can kind of see all the different colors of blue, how I kind of, distressed everything to bring in the different shades of blue. Just going to make it look a little bit more interesting if you distress it, I think. And then we also have the words here at the bottom of the sign, bloom where you're planted, which I think is really cute for this sign. What do you guys think about this one? And now it's time for the final reveal. Please let me know which DIY was your favorite down in the comments below, or just come say hello. This is my QR code if you would like to buy me a coffee, and you can find me at Crafty Beach on YouTube on all social media. Enjoy the final reveal.
Just like a dream, you and I standing wild and free, with petals so golden, the sun's warm kiss, a love so strong, a bliss. Whispers of the breeze, secrets unfold. It's you that I need, it's you that I want. When the world gets cold, it's you and me. When the sun comes back, you'll see. Oh, dandelion, the strength that you've shown, stronger each year. Look how we hold on through the toughest of times. We still stand strong. Through pavement we will grow.
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of today's spring crafting video. I really hope you enjoyed these new DIYs. I'd also like to thank my YouTube members for supporting my channel. Thank you to Jamie Job, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Donna Schreiner, I Am Mojo Jojo, Maren Christensen, Adrian Brolt, Debbie Middleton, Red Mama, Powell Puppy Life, Renee Albanese, Ginny, Debbie Austin, James Osborne, and Lizette Thomas. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through this voiceover. I think it might be allergies, but definitely trying to lose my voice here. But I made it. Now, if you would like more spring crafting inspiration, be sure to check out one of these DIY videos right here. And until next time, happy crafting for spring.